Hello, and thanks for joining us for another episode of Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, here at the News Forum, where all voices matter. It's great to have Dan Kelly back with us at Boom and Bust. He is the president of the Canadian Federation of Independent Business and always has some insight about our small business sector. Welcome back.
Good to be with you, Tony.
So, Dan, I guess first off, you regularly canvass your members at the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. What are they saying? What's their state of mind right now?
Well, look, it has been a incredibly rough number of years. In
Mm,
fact, I've spoken to so many business owners who have said that they haven't had a normal month of sales in 6 years. Since the start of the pandemic, we have moved into all sorts of different challenges since then, and it has been very rough to get, very hard to get any kind of trend line going, positive one, nevertheless, for small business. I will say, though, there is a bit of good news. At the very end of last year, in December of last year, CFIB's business barometer that measures small business optimism had a tiny tick up.
mm.
And in fact, I was just speaking to our economics team, and it looks like that trend may continue as we do our January read of that. So that is positive news. As we've been reflecting on that, I suspect that many business owners are starting to get used to the choking level of uncertainty that exists in the economy. That part hasn't gone away, but business owners are sort of saying, okay, well, I guess this is our new reality and making decisions based on that. And so, for that, I suppose there is some good news.
Well, I was going to raise the issue of uncertainty with you because it would just seem to me that because of the massive uncertainty with our trade relationship with the United States, that would be an overhanging factor. But apparently, am I wrong about that?
No, no, and that certainly has been the reason we saw that tank at the beginning of 2025 is for that very reason. The trade uncertainty with the United States played a huge role, and then it got worse. We saw, of course, India and China both take measures against Canada. So even if you're a canola producer or in the fishery, you were affected by trade-related issues as well. I don't think we fully appreciate also just how pervasive trade impacts businesses, regardless of whether or not they're export oriented.
Mm,
Of course, we're worried about Canadian companies and commodities and others that export goods into the United States, China, or India. But trade relations also affect those that import. And for small businesses, there are far more that import products from say the United States than there are that export products to the United States. In fact, it's about 50% of small firms that import goods. So when we threw tariffs on US imports coming into Canada, that created a lot of problem and uncertainty for so many businesses. And of course, the government has now scrapped most of those import tariffs that we were levying on some products.
right. So again, there is some rays of light. It sounds like, which is all good news. I guess my question to you would be then, given this state of economic news for small businesses, what should governments be doing to help small
Yeah.
businesses?
Well, look, the chief job I'd say right now is to provide as much certainty as one can from the things that government has under its control. We recognize, and I don't blame the government of Canada or a provincial government for the trade problems that we're experiencing with the United States. As I've said many times, I think the Pope himself would have lose patience in dealing with the U.S. administration at this very moment. But it is the responsibility of the government to provide as much certainty as they possibly can over some of the major building blocks that feed into the economy. And I will say that there has been some progress made on that. So, if we were speaking this time last year, we were facing not just a carbon tax, but a carbon tax increase.
Right.
And that has now got, at least the consumer end of that, the part that affected small businesses too, has been removed. Secondly, we were facing a capital gains tax increase that was about to go into effect, and that has been scrapped. So that also is good news. We've made progress on internal trade. We've made at least some progress on the major projects that feed into the economy in a big way. Look, I will say that there has been some movement on some of these building blocks, but lots of missed opportunities. A budget, for example, nothing
Right. I
that
do
came
want to
out of
talk
it.
about that. I do want to talk about the budget a little bit, Dan, but we're going to take a brief break. We'll be back with you after these messages.